So welcome back to the last session of this unit. So hopefully today we'll finish this chapter. The next chapter will be dealt with by the next teacher. So you will have opportunity to hear the summary of Puranjana again, which is the next chapter. And also there is one more allegory which is there in the next chapter. The allegory of male deer and female deer. You can hear it in the next chapter. Anyway, so now Puranjana city is burning. Yesterday, when we left the class, already the fire had started. The city was burning. So we will continue to see what happens to Puranjana city. When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens, the servants of the king, as well as the family members, sons, grandsons, wives, and other relatives were within the fire. King Puranjana thus became very unhappy. Okay, please read the purport.
There are many parts of the body the senses, the limbs, the skin, the muscles, blood, marrow, etc. And all these are considered here figuratively as sons, grandsons, citizens, and dependents. Indeed, the living entity becomes so helpless at the time of death that, although unwilling, he is forced to give up the body and enter another. Now, people are very busy trying to find petroleum in the midst of the ocean. They are very anxious to make provisions for the future petroleum supply, but they do not make any attempts to ameliorate the conditions of birth, old age, disease, and death.
Yeah. So death comes, that means we have to leave. We can't give an excuse. But we don't understand that. We are dealing with food crisis, energy crisis, so many different crises the world is dealing with. One part of the world is dealing with food crisis. There's no enough food for people to eat. The other part of the world is dealing with energy crisis. Some places everything is crisis. Some countries, right now everything is crisis. Food is crisis, energy is crisis, everything is crisis. But the real crisis is that we are not able to solve the problem of the soul entering this body. So then now the talk is about the subtle body, that what happens to subtle body at the time of death. Okay.
This subtle body has been figuratively described as a serpent or the city's police superintendent. When there is fire everywhere, the police superintendent cannot escape either. When there is security and an absence of fire in the city, the police superintendent can impose his authority upon the citizens. But when there is all out attack on the city, he is rendered useless. As the life air was ready to leave the gross body, the subtle body also began to experience pain.
Yeah. So at the time of death, both gross body, subtle body, everything is experiencing excruciating pain, especially for a materialistic person. For a devotee, is explained that it's just like opening one door and to getting from one place into another place, or like a strike of a lightning, or just like opening of a door is as easy death is. But for non-devotee, death is a very painful experience. Because of that trauma, he forgets everything. Birth is painful, death is painful. Both are painful. Okay, please read.
At the last stage of life, the different gates of the body are choked by effects of disease, which are caused by an imbalance of bile, mucus, and air. Thus, the living entity cannot clearly express his difficulties, and surrounding relatives hear the sound, "Gura gura," from a dying man.
Yeah. So, very practical that at the time of death, that sound comes out, right? The sound comes out because everything is choking. So Prabhupada is quoting from Mukundavara Stotra, Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Pancharandam, Advayame Vishatumanas Rajahamsa, Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavata Pitte Kantavarodana Vidau Smaranam Kutaste. So that is the reality at the time of death. Kapha, Vata, and Pitta, it comes at the throat and it chokes the throat. And the living entity cannot breathe. And because he cannot breathe, then that sound comes out, like that sound comes out. It's a reality. When you see people dying, you can actually see these things happening. So if in our healthy condition, if we think of the lotus feet of the Lord and die, it is most fortunate. Yeah, we should sometimes think of death and prepare our consciousness for death. Okay, so normally the dying man, at the time of death, he is so much worried about his family, especially if he's a family man. He becomes so much worried about his family. He starts thinking, what will happen to me if I die? Then what will happen to my family? How they will maintain themselves? Who will take care of them? Everything. That's why Vanaprastha is very important for Grahasthas, because when they are living only, they are detaching from the family, and they are not worrying about what is happening to family, what is happening to child, what is happening to grandchild, son, daughter-in-law, what is happening to property. They are not thinking of all these things, because Vanaprastha means that they come out of this thought. So when they die, their mind is free to think of Krishna. Otherwise, what happens? That if you're still in Grahastha life and if you're getting more and more entangled in Grahastha life, then this is what happens, that one starts thinking, oh, what will happen to my son? Even though the son has rejected the father, uh, even though the son has rejected the father, he tells the father that your time is over, you're a useless man, now you become old, don't interfere, be in one corner, we'll try to feed you. But still, that man at the time of death thinks, oh, what will happen to my son? It's all practical. Sometimes we have seen that some of them dying, that may be very horrible experience. So he thinks that he has to save them. Please read.
It is clear in this verse that at the time of death, thoughts of material enjoyment do not go away. This indicates that the living entity, the soul, is carried by the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. Due to false ego, the living entity still wants to enjoy the material world. And for want of material enjoyment, he becomes sorry or sad.
Yeah, sometime there are Puranas like Garuda Purana, which explains the journey of the soul after death. What happens is explained in Garuda Purana. The soul actually is quickly taken to Yamapuri, and then he comes back and he is watching everybody, whether these guys are crying or they're happy. He's watching the family members, what they are doing. I did so much work for them. Now I have died. Now is these guys crying or not? He's watching. And if they don't cry, then he curses them. Hey, you guys are not crying, you're enjoying my death. I curse you that you will also suffer like this. Like I suffered, you will also suffer like that. That's why at the time of death, the relatives lament loudly and cry. So the soul becomes satisfied. Oh, my relatives are lamenting for me. I am such a great man and I am now dead. Now these people are lamenting for me. Become very satisfied. This is the nature of material life. That even in death, one looks for recognition, and one is so attached, and one wants to bless or curse based on how much people are attached to. All funny things if you read what happens after death. So he wants to enjoy the material world.
Plans for material enjoyment are made by the subtle body, and the gross body is an instrument for enjoying these plans. Thus, the gross body can be compared to the wife, for the wife is the agent for all kinds of sense gratification.
Yeah. So all the plans are made by the mind, and the body is used as an instrument to enjoy. Mind is the plan making place. So when a person dies, then the instrument for enjoyment is not there, which is gross body. Only subtle body is there. So therefore, it is very painful for him. He feels a lot of pain. He feels thirsty. He cannot drink water. He feels hungry. He cannot eat. So it's not that hunger, thirst, heat, cold, these are not felt after death. Everything is felt after death. Hunger is felt, thirst is felt, heat is felt, cold is felt. So that is why if you see in Karma Kanda system, there is so much to be done by the son for the departed father. He has to give umbrella to the Brahmana and chappal to the Brahmana. If he doesn't give umbrella and chappal to the Brahmana, then the soul, when he is going, he will sweat on the scorching sun and his feet will be pricked by so many thorns. So much is there that to make us understand that life is not going to finish when the body is finished. The whole new life starts when the body is finished. Whatever sinful activity a soul has done, he has to suffer for all those sinful activities. Yes, suffer. Okay.
Which one question?
Yeah.
Like this was a new thing for me that after death also the soul is able to feel cold, thirst. So that means these are the functions of subtle body. Like,
Yeah. Gross body is dead matter. No, what gross body can do?
Achha.
Gross body is dead matter. A dead body cannot feel thirst, no? That body is there, but if gross body is supposed to feel thirst, then the body is there, dead body should also feel thirst. Dead body should protest, hey, don't put me on fire. Why are you burning me? A little bit of heat we cannot tolerate, right? Little bit of heat we cannot tolerate. Sometime by mistake or sometime due to pressure difference, when you're taking bath in hot water, some hot water comes like gushing. And then by mistake, if you just pour that hot water, so hot. You cannot tolerate a little bit of heat. But the whole body, they put some camphor, some ghee, if you're a nice person. If you're not a nice person, they put petrol, kerosene. If you're a nice person, they'll at least put some camphor and ghee. And they give fire to that body. The body burns. There's no protest. Body is just like, ah. So everything is felt by the subtle body through the agency of the
gross
gross
body.
body.
And Prabhuji, when we take like prasadam also,
Yeah.
when we feel nourished, and does that also get delivered to subtle body?
That goes to the soul. Direct delivery to the soul.
Means, okay, prasadam goes to soul, but like suppose a person who is not taking prasadam, he's just taking normal nutrition food or whatever. So that will also be a part of subtle body, means affecting subtle body.
Yeah, because it will become like sin, no? Ajnata karmano anyatra. So what is that? Yagashishtasina santo muchante sarvakilpishai. Bhunjate te tu agam papam epachanti atmakarana. So a person is eating food which is not offered, whether vegetarian or non-vegetarian, doesn't matter. Eating food which is not offered. So the sinful mentality which is accumulated by eating such food is going and accumulating in the subtle body. So due to that subtle body, then due to that sinful mentality, he may take some different body. Like previously in Bhagavad Gita, there used to be one picture. I don't know now. I think they removed that picture. That one half will be man, other half will be animal. Like one half will be man eating some non-veg, other half of the face, one half of the face will be man eating some non-veg stuff. The other half of the face will look like tiger or something like that. There was some picture like that in Bhagavad Gita.
I
don't know if you still have or removed. I think some edition they removed it, but it's a clear indication of what happens. That when we eat sinful food, that food goes and accumulates in the mind, and that mind takes the living entity into that kind of body.
So means Prabhuji, it's a good news. Like if you want to control our senses and make advancement, like especially hunger, thirst, then if you work on subtle body, then we'll be also see the manifestation of it in the gross body.
We should actually work on, yeah, it is true. But the way to work on subtle body, this is how yogis think, no? This is typical way of yogi thinking. The yogi thinks that I can control the mind. By controlling the mind, I can control the senses. And by controlling the senses, I will become successful. I will not be disturbed. Okay. So that's typical way of Ashtanga Yoga's way of thinking. That the moment one becomes jnani, understand that I am not body, I am spirit soul. When he understands that, Then the next question is that how to control this body, because that's a natural question, no? Because that's one causing trouble. What is the one which is causing trouble? So how to control the body? So yogi thinks that, okay, I will do some, yoga, asana, pranayama, that this, and then finally pratyahara. Pratyahara means that withdraw the senses from sense object by controlling the mind. And then you can go to dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. A very typical way of yogic way of thinking that by working on the subtle body, I can manipulate the gross body. But it's not so successful if you don't try to control the subtle body by Krishna consciousness. So the process of Krishna consciousness is that to engage gross body and subtle body together in service of Lord. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Grahim Indriyehi Sevanmukehi Jivadhau Swayam Yavasprutyadaha. So the seva aspect is the subtle aspect, that I'm supposed to do service. I'm not the master, I'm the servant. But that seva aspect, it cannot be limited to the mind itself. It has to manifest in the senses. So that is jivadhau, starting with the tongue. Then you take prasad, you chant the holy name. So the process of Krishna consciousness is engaging the gross and subtle together in Krishna's service. That's the only way you can actually control the gross body and subtle body, and also control the bodily function. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi, Kalavasani Kritau, Nidrahara Vihara Dadi Vijitau, Chatyanta Dino Chayo. So Nidra Ahara and Vihara, so if you have to overcome that Nidra Ahara and Vihara, then what is the method? The method is Sankhya Purvaka Nama, Sankhya Purvaka Gana, Sankhya Purvaka Natibi. Natibi means paying obeisances. And everything is included in our morning program, evening program. That throughout the day, we have specified number of songs to sing. Morning means you have to sing Mangalarti, then Nashingarti, then Tulsi Arti, then evening Tulsi Arti, then evening Sandhya Arti. So then there is Darshanarti, then Guru Puja. So in a day, our number of singing songs is fixed. That's so many songs we have to sing. In a day, our number of rounds which you have to chant is fixed. So many rounds you chant, minimum 16 rounds. Then more than that, whatever anybody can chant. One should try to chant some fixed rounds, minimum 16. And in a day, our number of obeisance also fixed. That when we call morning, when we come, we pay obeisance to Prabhupada, then we pay obeisance to deity, and then we pay, when we are saying the Prema Dwani, we are paying obeisance to so many people. And it's all done in a very orderly manner. It is not like a haphazard thing. Prema Dwani means everybody knows you have to Jai Hom Vishnu Vishnu. So there's a whole set of obeisance to be paid for so many people. So Prabhupada has given us a process which is very scientific. So if you follow that process, then naturally we are following Sankhya Purvaka Nama, Sankhya Purvaka Gana, Sankhya Purvaka Natibi. By that, automatically we will be able to become Nidra Ahara Vihara Vijita. So that's the formula. That bhakti means you engage the gross and the subtle together in Krishna's service in a disciplined way. Then we can control the gross and subtle body. Or if you simply think that we have some technique by which we can control the gross body, subtle body, this is all yogic type of thinking. Yogis think like that. And we know yoga doesn't work in Kali Yuga.
Like, tomorrow is Nirjala Ekadashi. So I was thinking, because of bodily problem, I was able to do fasting. But there are many other things which I have to work. So I was very clear about this. Thank you.
Yeah. Most of the time fasting is mental problem, not body problem. So if the mind is prepared that, okay, tomorrow I have to fast Nirjala Ekadashi, I'll chant so many rounds, I'll fast, I'll go and preach like this, I'll do book distribution, whatever. Different people take and they do different services. Or anyway, I have regular service from morning to evening I have to do. So the mind is already prepared that tomorrow I have always seen that from myself itself. I have always seen that when I'm prepared for Ekadashi, fasting is not a problem. Sometimes what happens is so intense things are going on that I forget whether it is morning, evening, Saturday, Sunday, which date, everything is completely out of sync. That I don't know which day of the week, which date of the month. Sometimes just get intensely into something And then suddenly my wife tells, okay, tomorrow is Ekadashi. And that day, I'm unprepared, I'll get headache. When I'm fasting, I'll get headache. But if I already know, okay, Ekadashi is coming, that okay, tomorrow is going to come. Like if I myself am expecting that, okay, Ekadashi is coming, then there's no problem. I can just fast. There's no issue. So the issue is not about is Ekadashi fasting or not. Issue about
Mind.
the mind being properly set. Okay, tomorrow is Ekadashi, then I need to fast. Mind actually follows in this. Mind works with rules and regulations very nicely. Mind follows rules and regulations very nicely. It works with rules and regulations. So if you tell the mind this is the rule, it will generally work. That's how it works. Otherwise, it's very difficult with mind. Yes, Krishna Rupa Mataji.
So how does willpower work then? They say that willpower is very strong, for
Yeah.
a particular person.
Yeah. If the willpower is directed, willpower means what? The desire to do something. That's what willpower, the desire to do something. So if the willpower is properly directed by the order of the spiritual master, it is really strong. It can do wonderful things. But if the willpower is simply directed by the three modes, it's not so strong. Even though modern people like to say that, but it's not so strong. It depends on which mode is directing the willpower. If mode of ignorance is directing the willpower, it breaks in 1 second. If mode of passion is directing the willpower, it breaks when there is no recognition, or when it becomes too difficult for the body to carry on with whatever is being done, then it breaks. When the willpower is driven by mode of goodness, is still better, because then there is a sense of duty, and the sense of duty drives the willpower. As long as there is sense of duty, then the willpower is there. When there's no sense of duty, willpower is not there. So it's not a general statement that willpower is strong. We have to see what drives the willpower. When the love for the spiritual master drives the willpower, that's the time it is strong, because that willpower, the strength of the willpower is simply coming by the mercy of the spiritual master. So then it is strong. Otherwise, it's just modes, and it depends on which mode is driving it. That's it. Is there, we studied the determination in mode of goodness, determination mode of passion, determination mode of ignorance. Is there in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, please read.
All these thoughts of one's wife indicate that the king was overly engrossed with the thoughts of women. Generally, a chaste woman becomes a very obedient wife. This causes a husband to become attached to his wife and continually thinks of his wife very much at the time of death. This is a very dangerous situation, as is evident from the life of King Puranjan. If one thinks of his wife instead of Krishna at the time of death, he will certainly not return home back to Godhead, but will be forced to accept the body of a woman and thus begin another chapter of material existence.
So one should try to think of Krishna. So the husband should be husband. That's why again, we are coming back to the same topic, Vanaprastha. Then there is detachment in family life between husband and wife. The wife is not thinking about the husband is not thinking about the wife. Otherwise, normally in Karma Kanda, it is considered very auspicious for the wife to think about the husband at the time of death. Because if the wife thinks about the husband at the time of death, then she can get the body of a man. And then it is so many things become easier like that. But Prabhupada himself says for a man to get body of a woman is not very good. But of course, when it comes to getting another body, these things become a consideration. But Krishna consciousness is not about getting another body. Krishna consciousness is about getting rid of this body. So then there is no consideration whether man, woman, nothing. Everybody can get delivered. So whether we are man, whether we are woman, we should not get too much carried away by these things that, oh, which is better, man body is better, woman body is better. Sometimes devotees who are having female body, they get upset. Oh, why man body is better? But it's not like that. Man body or woman body, whatever is your quota, we should be satisfied with that. And we should do the duties according to that quota. If you have got woman body, we should do the duties according to the woman body. But having a woman body is never a disadvantage for going back home, back to Godhead. So that's what we should worry about. We should not worry about why my duty is like this, why man's duty is like this, why can't I do man's duty, why can't I do woman's duty. That's what Ishapadishad is saying, that Ishavashyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tektena bhunjita magrida kaschas vidhanam. Magrida kaschas vidhanam. One should not become envious of others' possession. That starts from the body. We should be satisfied with whatever body Krishna gave us, and we should not covet other body, whether it is other man's body or other woman's body, or woman coveting for man body or man coveting for woman body, or someone thinking, oh, why I am less intelligent, this person is more intelligent, I should be more intelligent like him. It's all unnecessary. Whether we are less intelligent, more intelligent, whether we have man body, woman body, if we simply apply ourselves in Krishna consciousness properly, then we can go back home, back to Godhead. If we don't apply ourselves properly, we'll just get another body. So that's what we should be worried about. Okay, please read.
A wife is always supposed to be submissive to her husband. Submission, mild behavior, and submissiveness are qualities. Subservience are qualities in a wife which make a husband very thoughtful of her. If a husband and wife are very much attached to one another in Krishna consciousness, they will both benefit because Krishna is the center of their existence. Of course, it is an advantage for a woman to become a man, but it is not at all advantageous for the man to become a woman.
Yeah, this is all when we discuss this point. It's all when we have to take one more body. But we should sincerely try our best not to get into one more body. We should sincerely try. So sometimes, generally, the parallel between husband and wife is also applicable between the spiritual master and the disciple. So the qualities of the wife can also be compared to the qualities of disciple. A disciple also should have submission, he should have mild behavior, and he should have subservience to the spiritual master. So if a disciple has these qualities, then just like the husband thinks of the wife, then the spiritual master will also think of the welfare of the disciple. And when the spiritual master thinks of the welfare of the disciple, then everything becomes auspicious for the disciple. Everything becomes auspicious for the disciple. So sometimes these qualities, which explained as the qualities of wife, we can actually take some inspiration from those qualities to actually serve the spiritual master properly. So Puranjana was very much thinking about his wife, even though previously it was said that she was not interested in him anymore, and she was not even interested in obeying him or serving him. But Puranjana cannot stop thinking about his wife. That is the very nature of material life. That even though there are so many disadvantages, but we still think that this material life is nice. Sometimes it looks like that we have costless distrust on Krishna and we have costless trust on Maya. It looks like that sometimes. We should try to work on it. Okay, please read.
As part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, a living entity is supposed to think of Krishna. But here we see that King Puranjana, the living entity, is thinking of a woman. Since King Puranjana is thinking of his wife, his struggle for existence in the material world will not be ended by death.
Yeah, only if we think of Krishna, it will end. If you simply think of wife, or if you simply think of some position or some this or some that, it will just continue.
Actually, no one in this material world is happy, but the struggle gives a false sense of happiness. A person must work very hard, and when he attains the result of his hard work, he thinks himself happy.
He thinks himself happy, but it is not, he is not happy. He thinks himself happy.
Similarly, King Puranjana, the living entity, now passes the heir of his life over his wife, a woman. Therefore, he has to accept the body of a woman in his next life.
Yeah. That's what is going to happen to him. He's thinking of his wife, he's thinking of his daughters, sons. Please read.
Even though a politician may be allowed to take birth in his so-called homeland, he still has to undergo suffering due to his sinful activities in his previous life.
Yeah. We all know the story of a person who wanted to leave his body, right? And Lord Narayana sent Narada to bring him back. You know that story, right? No, no. Hmm? Hmm? Know the story or we don't know?
No, no.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So you can recite that story quickly, short way. Please recite that story. It's a very instructive story.
Hare Krishna. So Narad Muni came to this person who is called as Kailas, but then and said, I'm going to Vaikuntha to meet Lord. You can also come with me. He said, no, no, no. I am just a young person. I have to get married and this and that. So I will come later. After some years, again, when Narad Muni comes, again he says, now I'm married and so many responsibilities and all. You go away afterwards, I'll come. Then again, after some time, he said, no, no, I have children now. They are dependent on me. You go away. So like that, every time he keeps going on. So when Narad Muni comes one point of time, he asks, where is Kailas? Then he's told he's no more. His sons tell him he's dead. So Narad Muni feels regret. And as he was passing outside, then he found one dog barking. Wow, 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 Narad Muni, I'm here. Who are you? I am Kailas. So, oh, Kailas, so much late now. Now also you have the chance. I will take you. He said, no, 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 no. My children, they are not very careful. They don't guard the house very nicely. I have to do that. So wait, I will come later on. Then after some time again Narad Muni came. He says, where is that dog? The children told he's no more. Grandchildren were also there. So then as he was going in the fields, again he found another snake. Again that was Kailas. No, Narad Muni said, come on, now also you have a chance. He said, no, 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 no. Still my children, grandchildren, they don't take care of the fields. I need to take care. And there are so many rats here, this, that. Narad Muni understood, लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते. This person requires beating only. Then he shouted, come on, here is a snake. He will bite you and all that. And all the children, grandchildren came. They bait him like anything. And he was shouting, oh, I am your father, grandfather. They were not understanding only. And then Narad Muni took the soul and took him back to Godhead. So he was fortunate to have Narad Muni, but we should not assume that we are fortunate like that. We should finish our business quickly and get out.
Thank you. This is a story that even when there is opportunity, if our conscience is not purified, we may just lose that opportunity artificially thinking that I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. So consciousness has to be prepared in such a way that when we have to leave this body, then we should focus on Krishna. We should focus on Krishna. Otherwise, it's very dangerous situation. Very dangerous situation. Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raja, whose name is Fear himself, immediately drew near to arrest him. Okay, please read.
When a child is grown, it should be left up to him to execute the duties of life properly. A father may leave some state for his children's immediate help, but he should not be overly absorbed in thoughts of how his family will survive after his death. Not only does he commit sinful activities for his own sense gratification, but he accumulates great wealth to leave behind, so that his children may also gorgeously arrange for sense gratification. Since death must take away the living entity without hesitation, it is the ultimate God realization of the atheists who spoil their lives thinking of country, society, and relatives to the neglect of God consciousness.
Yeah, so this is very, very important instruction Prabhupada is giving to the householders. When a child is grown, it should be left up to him to execute his duties of life properly. So very important instruction for the householders. The problem with the householders is that they think that till they die, they should keep guiding their child. Oh, my child, nobody is there to tell him what is good and what is bad. Now, who is the child? He's a 40-year-old man. Huh? And the mother is 60-year-old, 70-year-old. She's telling, oh, my child. What child? So we should be very careful, especially householders. Prabhupada is giving very important instruction. When a child is grown, it should be left up to him to execute the duties of life properly. We cannot keep on thinking about children, children, children. There's a time to think about children. Modern parents are like that. When the time is to focus on the child, they will not focus on the child. That time, the father will go to work, the mother will go to work, and the child will grow up like a fatherless, motherless child. But when they have to detach from the child, that time they get so much attached to the child. Oh, my son, oh, my daughter. My daughter is suffering so much with mother-in-law. My son is suffering so much with his wife. So I am the savior of my son and my daughter. So tell my son that your wife is lousy. And tell my daughter that your mother-in-law is lousy. So like that. Oh, not now. Don't restart now. Okay. Very good. Okay. Yeah. So one should be detached at the time of death. It's very important. The danger of attachment is grossly there for the householders, but it is also subtly there for the other ashrams like brahmachari, grahastha, and the brahmachari, vanaprastha, sannyasi. It's subtly there for them. But for householders, it is grossly there for them because they are too much entangled in so many things. So it is grossly there for them. For others, it's certainly there for them. Sometimes one may get attached to position, or sometimes one may not have the right consciousness. One may simply enjoy the sense gratification which becomes available by being in a certain ashram. One may position or power or something, then just one has to remain in the material world. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Just like few verses back, we were discussing that the qualities of wife, it can be assimilated in the life of a disciple to serve the spiritual master. So in the same way, I was just thinking that this discussion about the parents and children, can we also have in the similar lines about when we are preaching, that after we preach and guide devotees, so over a period of time, then are we also supposed to leave them and to lead their own life, or how long we should keep on guiding them, correcting them, like that?
Generally, I have seen that over a period of time, the guidance becomes lesser and lesser because they themselves become quite competent to take decisions and go on. But overall, that relationship remains. Overall, that relationship remains. And sometimes when there's too much confusion, then they may still come and ask few things to us. Because naturally it happens, no? Naturally it happens. Like it's just that for some time they need like very close hand holding, and after some time it's just like they are able to do their own services. They do whatever they have to do, and then only when it becomes a little bit too confusing they come to us, and that becomes more like friendly relationship. Like I remember that when I came to Krishna consciousness, that for everything, without discussing with my Shiksha Guru, there's nothing much I could do about, because in every step I needed guidance. But now, sometimes I'm too much confused, I call him and then I tell him that I'm too confused now what to do. Then he tells me what to do and things like that. Then I agree, okay, and then we just go on. But there, the relationship also has become like more like a friendly relationship. But even though he is very senior to me, and I know he is senior to me, but still when he deals with me, he deals with more like more in a friendly manner than. And same thing I have seen that with people who were taking some guidance from me. Over a period of time, that's what has happened. But in the beginning, that guidance is little intense. After that, it's naturally it happens.
That means the same principle has to be applied, like the children after a particular time.
But the point is that the material relation has to be cut off. Sneha pasam idam chindi imam pandushu vrishnishu. The material relation needs to be cut off. Okay. But in spiritual life, we don't have to cut off relationship. We have to maintain that relationship, because that relationship is based on soul to soul relationship with Krishna as center. So there is no need to cut off that relationship. But in material world, there's a need to cut off that relationship.
I was talking more about not about relationship.
Yeah.
Relationship has to be there because it's a Vaishnava relationship.
Yeah.
But in terms of guidance, when we talk of guiding,
Yeah.
just like Prabhupada is mentioning here, at a certain point, we should leave the child to lead his own life.
Yeah.
So similarly, when we are guiding devotees,
Yeah.
so at a certain time, are we supposed to leave them to lead their own life, or we should keep them guiding?
No, it depends. No, like what it means leaving them to lead their own life also is need to some definition is there. Like if they have some stable service and their consciousness is fixed and they are going in the right direction, then okay, we can just leave them to do what they are doing. But if they don't have stable service, if their consciousness is going wayward, but in the case of a son, a father has to leave him even in that stage.
Okay.
But in case of giving some guidance, we cannot do like that. No. As long as they are willing to take guidance from us, then we should still guide them. We cannot tell them like, but in case of a son, a father cannot do like that. He has to tell his son, now enough, you take care of your own thing. Don't come to me. I have done my job. So when I put my son in Gurukul, when very senior disciple of Prabhupada, we are having a nice conversation. So he was talking to me, that he told me that, see, you have done your job now. You have shown your son the right path. You have put him in Gurukula. You have put him in the right guidance. And you have done some reasonable things for his future maintenance. Now you should not worry about your son. You should just focus on how you should go back to Godhead. So that difference is there. That difference is there. A family relationship is meant to be cut off. Okay. But a spiritual relationship is not meant to be cut off. If son comes and tells me now where to invest in this real estate or what to do this, I am supposed to cut him off. Enough of real estate advice business, or enough of how to make money advice business. I have done my job. Now you do your job. You find out how to make money, what you lose money, make money. This is all your problem, Baba. It's not my problem anymore. Mera kaam ho gaya. Sneha pasam imam chindi. That needs to be cut off. But it's not so much in spiritual relationship. A difference is always there. Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Prabhuji, when we go for preaching or trying to tell about Bhagavad Gita and help new people, then there are two things which are involved in that. One is like some of them are distressed. So they are willing to surrender to Krishna, and they may chant some few rounds in the beginning. So we may have to give them some little material guidance in the beginning for some time. But later we have to cut the material bond, as you said, Prabhuji. But spiritual relationship continues. So now, for example, we have one person whom we are guiding, and then he is able to follow what we are saying. Then we continue guiding him. But somebody is not able to follow in spite of our repeated instructions or requests. Then we can cut him off, or should we only pray for him and leave?
No, it depends on whether he wants to continue to take guidance or not. See, one of the quality of sadhu is said that he is vimanyavaha. Vimanyavaha means he doesn't become angry. Okay. So a person may not, he may not be, he may have difficulty, he may struggle with Maya. Okay. But as long as he is willing to take help, we should help him. Okay. So there are two categories of people. The people who are struggling with Maya and they want help. And their progress may be agonizingly slow for us.
From our point of view.
From our point of view. Okay. But we should help. Okay. We should not say that I will not help because they are willing to take help. The other category of people who are not willing to take help. Okay. For them, we should try to persuade for some time. And if they are definitely not willing to take help, then what can we do? Okay.
So,
but it's not the question of whether one is improving fast according to my expectation or one is not improving fast according to my expectation. That should not be the criteria. The criteria is that whether that person is willing to take guidance or not. That should be the criteria.
Guruji, can you give some practical symptoms for understanding that how the person is not willing to take help from us? Because it's very difficult to differentiate sometimes.
No, it's very simple, straightforward. No, that you go and talk to them. They say that I don't want to listen from you. They straight away say that I don't want to waste my time with you. छोड़ो यार, मुझे ऐसा तंग मत करो. Okay. So that means they're not willing to take guidance. But they listen to you either out of politeness or out of they want to listen to you. They listen to you. As long as they're listening to you, you should be invested in them. क्या जाता है? That's okay. They're listening, no? Then you should still see. One thing we should always understand that Krishna consciousness is not result oriented; it is process oriented. It's very important difference we need to understand. That because this whole world is result oriented, so all this approach comes from result oriented approach. That you want you engage in an activity, you want this result. Okay, that's how we are trained in this world. We are all target based. But Krishna consciousness is exactly opposite. It is process oriented. It's not that you should not look for result, but the process itself is the result. And whatever is the manifested result is simply incidental. That understanding should be there. But sometimes we also want that incidental to be measured, and we also want to improve our service according to that measurement of the incidental. But that's only of a certain value. There is a limitation to that. Okay. But essentially, we should understand that Krishna consciousness is process oriented. So therefore, we should remain invested. That's the point. You understand? Why we should remain invested, irrespective of whether the result is manifested or not. We should remain invested because that's the process. That's the process. But of course, one needs to intelligently spend time with someone who is like a more receptive and who is able to do much better. And then one is not able to do. You have to see those things, adjustments has to be done. But as long as one is willing to listen and we are able to invest something into them, we should always remain invested. We should not think that he is not improving his graph is not to my expectation. So it is a low yield, high energy product. Isko chhod do. It should not be like that. We should not have industrial approach to preaching.
Effectiveness and efficiency we should not see.
You should not have some industrial kind of approach to preaching. Yeah, I didn't say that you should choose people who are very difficult and then only spend time with them. That there may be different type of people, but I'm saying that the approach should not be like, "Arey, time spent karke fayda nahi hai, isko chhod do." Approach should not be like that. You should, as long as that person is willing, you should still be invested in that. That's what I'm saying. You should not become like a very result-oriented approach.
We are not the only one who want to save somebody.
No, but you should also understand, even like the whole thought process, what you're saying, no, that that the person who is more willing to listen to me, that I should spend more time with him. Ultimately, you are not the doer. Okay. So your productivity is simply a function of your spiritual master's mercy. Okay. You don't have anything personal in that. The moment you think that my productivity is my efficiency, then Krishna will also make sure that you understand that that's not correct. And generally, when Krishna wants you to understand such things, it's a little painful. So if you're properly situated in consciousness, then it's okay.
Yeah, means like as even Krishna says, "Ye athamam prapadyante tam suthaiva vajam." His policy is as you reciprocate, he'll reciprocate. So there we understand. Like when Srila Prabhupada, we see at certain places they decided to leave that place because things were not working at that place.
Yeah, if things are not working, that's different. But I am again and again saying that there is a difference between things not working and things working slowly. Okay. You should make distinction between these two. Things are not working, it's okay. If someone tells you, you go to a person and then you try to give him Krishna consciousness, consistently is just pushing you back. Okay. Then you should understand that it is not for me. इसको भक्त बनाने के लिए एक उत्तम अधिकारी चाहिए, मेरे से नहीं होता है. It's not that he cannot become devotee. It's not up to us to make him devotee.
Yeah.
हमारा capability में वो नहीं है. So then definitely you have to make a shift. When things are not working, it's correct. You should make a shift. But if things are working slowly, then you should still remain invested. That's the point. There's a difference between these two. If you just start hunting for numbers in Krishna consciousness, then it will be dangerous. Dangerous. Then you are just bringing the Rajasic material world mentality into Krishna consciousness. And generally problem is that when Rajas comes into practice of bhakti, along with Rajas, sin will also come. Huh? Along with Rajas, sin will also come. That is the whole discussion in the end of Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita end, that why does a man do sin knowingly? Because of his association with Rajas, he knowingly does sin. So that's what will happen. So we should understand that bhakti is process oriented, and then we should always try to focus on purifying the process.
And because we also not only one, like who is severe, there are many things. The books are available, audio lectures are, video lectures are, YouTube. If somebody wants, slowly he can always access all those things and gradually make
But is it
himself.
not natural? I don't understand that whole approach. It's not that you're going like a lone man riding on a horse, try to save anybody. You're going with a whole paraphernalia. The moment somebody is willing to get interested in Krishna consciousness, the first thing is to give him a Prabhupada's book. Prabhupada himself said, what can you do in 20 minutes lecture or 30 minutes lecture? Give him a book, it will remain with him.
We give both, right? Personal time plus book.
Yeah. So the moment you give some personal time, immediately rest of the paraphernalia comes into place. No. That's not separate from giving time, right? That's what I'm asking, because you said that the other things also. I'm saying the other things are always there. You never go alone. You go with other things. When you go to a person, you're going him with a package. The initial part is you're dealing with him. The rest is all Prabhupada books, then association, lecture, and everything. Then the big temple, deity. Like you go as a package. You're not going as one man, no. Whenever you approach a person, you're approaching always as a package.
Yeah.
You're never approaching as one man.
But some people, once we give them, some people want us to repeatedly, initially we need to be repeatedly there along with this, so to inspire people to take shelter of these things.
Correct, yeah. That should always, we should.
And those who are regularly taking that, then we spend more time. But those who are not taking that, will wait till the time they do that part. Read those.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that like someone is slow, you just can't abandon them. That's the point I mean.
Yeah, no abandonment. But
you cannot abandon them.
We wait till the time.
But you also engage with them. When I say abandon, it's not like, okay, तुमको book दे दिया, तुमको lecture दे दिया, तुमको temple में आने के लिए बोल दिया, अभी तुम करेगा तो हम आपको देखेंगे. It's not that approach. That still you talk to them, you try to find out, अरे तुम क्यों नहीं आता है, क्या हो रहा है तुमको, तुम बुक पढ़ा कि नहीं है, हम ये एक पेज पढ़ा है, ठीक है 2 पेज पढ़ने का कोशिश करो. So
because
that we should keep it on.
Like last 2 years, just to give practical, we do a lot of online programs. So there might be 2,000 people in my list, and it's very difficult to call everybody and.
Okay. This online and all, whatever gets filtered, you just work with that, because online is a very impersonal medium. See, this whole online is a very, very impersonal medium. But that is what we can do now. So whether personal, impersonal, we should do it. Okay. But there you are throwing your net wide, and then you are collecting some few little, and then you are going to work on it. But within those people who want to work on it, if someone may be slower, someone may be faster, you can't understand.
Like as per our capacity, whatever is the limited capacity, we should try to give everybody association who are willing to improve or willing to take guidance, and pray to Krishna that our capacity will increase so that we can have more seva.
In general, my understanding is preaching means that get them into association of Prabhupada. We should facilitate them to have relation with Prabhupada. Like we are not, probably it's my thinking. I never felt that I am giving association to somebody. मुझे खुद association चाहिए, मैं क्या association उसको देगा? As long as I can connect someone to Prabhupada and the system or process of getting connected to the spiritual masters of ISKCON and Prabhupada, getting inspired, we can only be the instrument of inspiring them to take up Krishna consciousness. हमारा काम है, इलेक्ट्रिशियन जैसा है, इधर वायर है, जोड़ के एक जॉइंट मार दिया तो वो तो करंट तो ऐसे ही जाएगा. बस.
Our duty is to facilitate them to Prabhupada.
Our idea is that, at least that's my understanding of preaching. Our idea is to connect people to the movement, and then give them the greater advantage of this house which Prabhupada has built. लगा दो, चलेगा. That's it. Okay, please read. Yes, Roji.
When I deal with my relatives now, many of them are in the stage where they may leave, like in the sense of those like Mausa, Chacha, Chachi, So they are very senior people. So it becomes, I one time one of my bua was actually ridden with cancer, and she was in Bombay only. So I went to meet her also, but it was hospital environment. Her son was sitting and all. So although I wanted to help her get something deeper and not just like say, sorry, you are going through this and all that. That is, anyone will be saying that. But because of the environment, I couldn't really do that part. So how we should actually enter into this discussion, especially I'm talking because it is with seniors also. It is not like my equal or junior in the family. Someone senior, how to enter into such a discussion, because that is where right now, if I have to flow my spiritual, like what I have received into their lives, they are the first candidates in this situation, what we are discussing today. So they face it all, but they face it and I just see the problem. I'm not able to give them the help.
So
they're not in Krishna consciousness.
That's okay, I understand. So the first point is that you deal with them with a lot of respect. Okay, because any people who are materialistic minded, respect attracts them. If you are very respectful to them, you look very attractive to them. And that respect should be genuine. It's not like some treachery of respect. Arey, isko respectfully hum act karega, baad mein abhi isko tum kar. Because what a devotee wants from anybody, it doesn't want anything from anybody. Or what anybody can give to a devotee. Nobody can give anything to a devotee. Nor a devotee wants anything from anybody, nor anybody can give anything to a devotee. A devotee is in a position to give things. So that is the unique position of a devotee, because he is associated with Krishna. So we are all situated in some unique position. So we are able to give things by Prabhupada's mercy. So we should just give them respect, which is what is a prime thing for them, that people should pay respect to them. The moment we give them respect, then they become more conducive to us, to hearing with us, and then depending on situation, like, if a situation is very grave like that, is a situation which like she is going through pain, most of the time I have seen that people want to hear something. Okay, it's only our own inhibition. We think, oh, abhi isme jaake kya baat karega, kaisa baat karega. You don't have to, you don't have to always say you are in Maya, this pain is Maya, and this body is Maya. We don't have to take that route of going and talking to them. We can always talk about the nature of material body, that body means this, and body is generally going through this kind of problems, but we are a spirit soul. We are not meant to go through this problem. Only when we get into this situation, we can actually understand that how painful it is. And this pain is not something which we are not meant to go through. Arey, that fellow who is in pain wants to hear this. That this is not something which I don't want to go through this. I'm not meant to go through this. Why it is coming to me? He wants to hear about it. But it should be told positively, that by being Krishna conscious, we can understand that we are spirit soul, and spirit soul by nature is happiness and things like that. So there's a whole set of positive Krishna conscious direct preaching we can give them. We don't have to tell them all this pain, cancer, this is directly a product of your sin. In the previous life, you have become sinner, and this life you are sinner. So because of all these sins, this has manifested. And now next, this is going to take you to Naraka. And there they will put some iron rod and they will poke you. You don't have to tell all these things to them. I still remember when I was a young boy, one Christian preacher came to my house. Dong, 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 he was knocking the house. And then I opened the door. You sinner! This is how he started. Shouted at me, you sinner! Jesus is going to save you. I said, you are sinner. Your father is sinner. Your grandfather is sinner. Run away from me. You come and knock my door and tell me, you sinner, Jesus is going to save you? So it's a way of doing things. Go with some Mahaprasad, go with some Charnamrit, take a garland. So when you go with that type of setup, and then people become very conducive, they become very appreciative to what you're doing. When people die, when people are in great pain, when people are in great trouble, it's very easy to preach Krishna consciousness to them, because they are actually wanting to hear Krishna consciousness. But we should present the positive aspect of Krishna consciousness to them, and we should relate it to their problem, and we should say how this positive experience of Krishna consciousness can solve their problem. And at the same time, we should try to give them this general idea about the nature of material body and material existence, without getting into specifics of you are sinner, you will go to hell and things like that. Yes, do that. So if we do that, and then like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, if we talk like that, and if we say that I want to sit and chant one round for you, nobody will say no. You can just sit and chant one round for them. And then after that, if you tell them that can I read few slokas from Bhagavad Gita, and you choose few slokas from Bhagavad Gita, something from Atma Vijnana, something from devotional service, like that, you have a small package. You choose that package, you read the shloka, you read translation, you read Prabhupada's purport. That's it. You're done. And from hospital, if someone comes and asks, you can tell them that we are doing some ministerial service. If you want, we can do it for all the patients, if you want. That's it. That is for hospital kind of setting. But generally, if you want to preach to relatives or elderly people, the first thing is that you show some respect to them. Showing physical respect, like touching their feet, like your brahmachari or in saffron. You try to touch their feet. Any pious man, woman, they become so touched in their heart. Oh, they don't make clear distinction between brahmachari, sannyasi, etc. For them, saffron is like, saffron means is like something great. So a person wearing saffron coming to touch my feet means, I think, oh, but their heart melts that, oh, he is in such an exalted situation, but he is giving me respect. Then, thoda aisa karke, then get inside. That's how you should do if you want to preach to leaders. And sometimes a lot of patience is required. Lot of patience is required. Especially if you want to preach to relatives, you should have a lot of patience. Huge amount of patience is required to preach to them. And you should, and all these people know, one thing all these people know, they all know if they get into trouble, they should come to you. All these people know this. As long as they are enjoying life, they will not come to you. At the first sign of trouble, they will come to you. They know he is a sadhu manush. So if I'm getting into trouble, I should go to sadhu. That much consciousness is there in India that when I'm in trouble, I should go to sadhu. They will come to you. And when they come to you, then you can, or if you want to approach them, then you should do some cultivation, basically respect. That's the most important thing. That's the key thing. That if you deal with them in a very respectful manner, they will naturally get attracted to you. Okay, please read.
This Krishna consciousness movement, however, is educating people throughout the world and informing them how to conquer death. Harim vinana mrutim taranti. One cannot conquer death without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
You see, this is a very positive message Prabhupada is giving. A very, very positive message. This is what we are meant to tell them, that how to conquer death.
When Yamraj and his assistants take a living entity away from the place of judgment, the life air, desires, being followers of the living entity also go with him. When the living entity and the life air are gone, the lump of matter produced of 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, and ether, is rejected and left behind.
Yeah, we know that. Is there in Ishapanishan? Vayoradlam amritam, atetam bhashmantam sariram, om kritosmara kritam smara, kritosmara kritam smara. That the Lord will remember what we have done, and the reactions of what we have done simply will follow us. Life errand. The living entity is able to operate in this body due to life air. The life air is going, it is the Vayu part. It is going within the body. It is moving. There are 10 types of life air, prana. That's the prana. The life air means prana. The 10 type of life air which goes within the body. And they all have one function. And because of those functions of the life air, then the living entity is able to operate the body. This body is a pneumatic machine actually. Like, pneumatic machines, no? Machines which are operated by air are called pneumatic machines. Machines which are operated by water are called hydraulic machines. So this body actually is a pneumatic machine. Even though some hydraulics is there, but it's basically a pneumatic machine. Because all the functions of digestion, expansion, contraction, taking air intake, outtake, everything is controlled by this life air. So that's what it is. They are all connected because the life air works according to the subtle body. Like one feels hunger, means what? That a particular life air has gone to the stomach and it has created a situation where one can feel hunger. Like a man sees gulab jamun, he likes it, so his eyes become very big, his pupil gets dilated. Huh? It's all because there's a particular life hair which goes to the eyes and it dilates the people. So there's a life hair which works on dilation, contraction, etc. There's a life hair which works like there are different type of life hairs which work on different functions. So the yogis try to control the life hair. So if you can control and direct the life hair according to your mind's desire, then you can make the body work according to your desire. That's exactly the science of Ashtanga Yoga. Now what is happening? Everything is happening involuntarily. That the senses come in touch with the sense object, the mind brings up a samskara, and then involuntarily the senses are reacting to the proximity of the sense object by the movement of the life hair. This is what is happening now. Basically, everything which happens in this body is exactly this mechanism only. Okay, but the whole thing is involuntarily happening, and we are thinking that I am doing this because of our bodily identification. Okay. But if you can make it into a controlled process, which is possible by Ashtanga Yoga, then mind can direct the life hair to go to one place or not to go to one place. Then accordingly, mind can control the entire working of the body. That's the connection between these two. Life hair goes away. That's the first thing to go away. Prana goes away. Along with prana, the soul and the subtle body also come out. But it comes out through which gate? That is to be seen. Most of the time for materialistic people, it goes out through the rectum. So that's why if you see, normally when a person dies, he would have passed some stool also. But for yogi, he takes it out through the Brahmarandra. He bundles the prana and the gross and the subtle body and the Atma, and he takes out to the Brahmarandra. He controls how it comes out. Okay.
Hare Krishna. I also heard this paralysis is nothing but dysfunction of life hairs.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So that's as you very nicely mentioned, this body is a pneumatic machine.
It's a pneumatic machine. Some hydraulics is there, but it's generally pneumatic. Okay.
It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is the principal factor within the body.
So such person is called as a cow or a ass.
Human civilization devoid of Krishna consciousness is simply a civilization of lower animals.
So when Puranjana was being dragged by great force by the powerful Yavana out of his gross ignorance, he could still not remember his friend, well-wisher, the super soul. So when a materialistic person dies, he is simply thinking of all his materialistic paraphernalia, but he cannot remember the super soul. He cannot think that the super soul can actually save me. He cannot think like that.
Despite all the offenses of a son, the father and mother are always the son's well-wisher. Similarly, despite all our offenses and defiance of the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord will give us immediate relief from all the hardships offered by material nature if we simply surrender unto Him.
Yeah. So if we surrender to Him, immediately He will relieve us. Even if we don't surrender to Him, He will not leave us. There's two things. One is, if we surrender to Him, He will relieve us. But even if we don't surrender to Him, He will not leave us. Whatever body we take, He will come along with us in that body. He will not leave us. He will simply wait for us. Okay, ek din ye dekega mujhe. Okay, he will wait for us. So that's called as love. So the entire 9 cantos of Bhagavatam is actually trying to make us understand the nature of that love. So when we understand that nature of that love by reading these 9 cantos of Bhagavatam, then when Krishna performs loving pastimes in the 10th canto, then we can appreciate the nature of that loving pastime. Otherwise, it's very difficult to understand those pastimes because we don't know what it means to love, or what exactly it means to love. We don't know. So the most unkind king Puranjana had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with horns. It was as though he was being cut to pieces by axes. So the problem with hell is that you'll face unlimited. The person who going to hell, he will face unlimited amount of pain, but he cannot die because he dies and goes to hell. So he cannot die. So the particular body which is given in hell, or the particular type of arrangement which is there in hell, is in such a way that unlimited amount of pain can be experienced, but the death cannot be experienced. That's the most dangerous thing. Because when you have a gross body, after a certain limit of pain, you have to experience death. But hell is not like that. Because there is no direct involvement of gross body in the experience of the pain in hell. So there is no experience of death. So hellish pain is unlimited, but there is no relief in hell offered through the agency of death. So Narad Muni is giving very strong warning to Barhi sir, King Prachina Barhi, that see, this is what is going to happen to you. You are going to go through unlimited amount of pain. You are thinking that you are going to enjoy, but you are going to suffer. You're going to suffer. So after hellish suffering, then one has to take one more birth. Due to his contaminated association with women, a living entity like King Puranjana externally suffers all pangs of material existence and remains in dark region of material life, bereft of all remembrances for many, many years. Okay, please read.
To save human civilization from the darkness of ignorance, this movement was started. The main purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to enlighten the forgetful living entities and remind him about his original Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, first of all, we should remember this. Then we should remind others also. Both should happen. We should remember this and we should remind others. King Puranjana gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently, in his next life, he became a very beautiful and well-situated woman. He took his next birth as daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king. So now Puranjana has become Vaidarbhi. A man has become woman. This is what is happening. Sometimes we take man body, sometimes we take woman body, sometimes we take animal body. Simply one body after another body, and trying to fight within the body. So it was fixed that Vaidarbhi, the daughter of King Vidarbha, was to be married to a very powerful man, Malayadwaja, the inhabitant of Pandu country. After conquering other princes, he married the daughter of King Vidarbha. So he got married to nice place. To Malayadwaja. And Malayadwaja means that one who is fixed in devotional service like a mountain. It's called Malayadwaja. He's a Mahabhagavata. He said that he's a Mahabhagavata. He's a great devotee. And then the Pandya kingdom stands for transcendental knowledge. Panda means knowledge, and Pandya means the place of transcendental knowledge. The word Parapura is Vaikunta. It's refers to Vaikunta. So Malayadwaja fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became rulers of the tract of land known as Dravida. Thus, there were 7 kings in that land.
Roji,
Yeah.
Roji, this till now throughout the allegory we are finding that in one sense this character of Puranjana is not being shown very good. Means throughout he is having very past bad track. Now he's getting into a woman body. But at this turning point, we are finding why it is being shown that he got married to some Mahabhagavad devotee in the next body of woman. So why Narad Muni is bringing this good turning point in the character of Puranjana?
So there are two. First is that Puranjana did many pious activities. It was previously said that he did pious activities.
But you find that these animals are piercing him with horn. That means it is being condemned.
That is due to the discrepancy in the pious activities. See, there are 2 things. One is that you do some pious activities, get some pious credit. Okay, but the way the pious activities are there, that even if there is some small discrepancy in pious activity, then you get some sinful reaction and you have to suffer for that. But you have done some pious activity, so he is going to enjoy. Okay. Now Narad Muni is bringing this turning point in Puranjana's story because Narad Muni's intention is to actually turn Prachina Barhisat into devotee. Okay. So that is his intention. He is telling the story not to explain to him the wandering of the spirit soul alone. He has a very specific aim. That aim is that this king, he should become devotee. So therefore, he brings the twist in that story where he actually wants to show to Prachina Barhisat that he still has a chance. You have a chance. If you take up devotional service, you can get saved. You are like Puranjana. Don't wait for one more birth. And we don't know what will happen to you. But even in this birth, if you take to devotional service, you can be saved. So for that reason, he brings that twist in the story. But he also wants to warn him that it is not going to be easy. You're not going to enjoy with all your activities you're done. You're going to suffer. You're going to get another body, and that body may be woman's body because you're so much addicted to sex enjoyment. But he wants to tell him all that. He wants to sufficiently warn him, and he wants to make him sufficiently afraid so that he becomes serious in hearing what is going to happen. Okay. Now he has come to a stage where Puranjana's life looks hopeless. Okay, that he suffered in hellish condition, he became woman, and now what is going to happen to him, we don't know. His life has become hopeless. He has brought to the stage. Okay, अरे वो लड़की बन गया और उसका इतना सफरिंग हो गया, अभी ये किसके साथ शादी करेगा, इसका जिंदगी क्या होएगा. He is brought to a stage of suspense where things may go into any direction. Now he is bringing positive direction into that story. Okay, and he's saying that, see, when you take this direction, then everything becomes auspicious. So that is the end. He wants Puranjana himself to come. So he is bringing that end into the story. Okay, please read.
The great Acharya who preaches devotional service, or the word belong to the category of Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. A neophyte devotee cannot actually become a preacher. The neophyte is advised to execute devotional service in the 7 other fields, Shravanam, Kirtanam, etc. If one can successfully execute the preliminaries,
7 items,
he can in the future be situated on the platform of Sakhyam Atmanivedanam.
Yeah, so even in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami explains that it is very difficult to see these 2 forms of bhakti in the practice stage. When he actually explains Sakhyam and Atmanivedanam, that time itself he makes it very, very clear that this is not something which is normal, this is rare. But when he explains other processes, he says that these processes should be practiced. But when he specifically comes to explain these 2 processes, He says that this is very, very rare to find it. Okay. So the point is, that's why it was called as the 7 processes were previously indicated, not the 9 processes. So the Dravida Desha also indicates the acharyas who come from there who have spread bhakti. So, okay.
Guruji, neophyte cannot become preacher means?
Neophyte cannot become preacher. That's it.
So it is told that means we are neophyte.
But you should know. I cannot tell you. I don't have a certifying agency to say who is neophyte, who is not neophyte. I know I am neophyte. That much I know. That's why I said I don't consider myself as preacher. Neophyte cannot become preacher. It does not mean that he should not preach. Okay. Generally, a neophyte is more interested in preaching and less interested in practice. Okay. A person who is Madhyamadikari, he is less interested in preaching, he is more interested in practice. It's not that he will not preach, but his priority is practice. His priority is not preaching. He wants to practice properly so that he can preach. But neophyte is not like that. His priority is to preach. He wants to preach. But if you see his preaching and his practice, there will be a lot of difference in his preaching and his practice. That's the very nature of neophyte's preaching. So he cannot be a very effective preacher because people will easily see through him. After some time, they will understand that, okay, bolta hai, karta kuch aur hai. Like, I used to joke that there are many preachers in ISKCON who have this idea that life is meant for living and philosophy is meant for preaching. Life is meant for living and philosophy is meant for preaching. That's not correct. The reverse is true. What is that? Life is meant for preaching and philosophy is meant for living. So a neophyte thinks like this: life is meant for living, philosophy is meant for preaching. So आपको philosophy preach कर दो. अभी तुम्हारा जिंदगी तुम्हारा मर्जी से जी लो. So he cannot be a preacher. He cannot be a very effective preacher. One who applies philosophy can be more effective preacher. So that's why Prabhupada says neophyte cannot be preacher. But we are a preaching movement, so everybody should preach. So whether one is neophyte, not neophyte, everybody should preach. But we should also be aware that we should not get carried away by preaching. We should very carefully see that where is our practice, where is our preaching. Sometimes people become so busy in preaching that they don't practice. I'm so busy, I don't have time. I'm so busy in preaching. So what is happening to your practice? No, I cannot come for Mangalarati because I'm so busy in preaching. I cannot chant 16 rounds because I'm so busy in preaching. I cannot do this. I cannot read Bhagavad. I cannot sit in Bhagavatam class because I'm so busy in preaching. That means he's in problem. Somebody should go and help him. Somebody should make him understand that he is harming himself. He is not, but he is thinking he's doing a great job because I'm so busy in preaching. I'm sacrificing everything. I'm preaching. He's not sacrificing. He's sacrificing his own Krishna consciousness. What preaching he can do to others? That is what is neophyte. A neophyte means a person who does not understand the value of his practice. That how important it is for him to practice Krishna consciousness. He simply knows Prabhupada books, he simply knows some philosophy, he simply knows this, he can make some presentation of philosophy, then he just keep on doing this. And thinking that he's doing a great job. Does not know the value of his practice. If he, first of all, he has to save himself, then only he can save others. If he's not saving himself, how he is going to save others? Like in first canto, no? That Yudhishthira is lamenting, oh, my uncle is blind man. He went to the forest. Who will take care of him? Oh, my aunt, she is faithful follower of my uncle. She has blinded her eyes. Who will take care? I was only taking care of them. I gave them nice shelter, nice food. I gave them so much respect. Now what will happen to them? Narad Muni is saying, stop this nonsense, please. Excuse me. Kala karma gunadino dehoyam pauncha bhautikaha katam anyamstu gopayat sarpagrasta param. He's asking very nice question. That you yourself are eaten by the snake. Your sarpagrasta. Snake has caught you. And you are telling you, I'm going to save all these people. What you are going to save? Katam anyamstu gopayat. So that's why Prabhupada is saying neophyte cannot be preacher. Neophyte means one who does not understand the value of him becoming a devotee in Krishna consciousness, and nor he understands the value of other devotees. He doesn't understand both. He thinks he is great. Sometimes he has some doubt that why did my spiritual master take so many disciples? Should have just taken me as disciple. All these people are disciples of my spiritual master, unqualified fellows. Anyway, my spiritual master is merciful. He has taken all these people as disciples. And I am the right person for my spiritual master. I am the right kind of disciple. He has that idea. It's called neophyte devotee. He cannot preach. Okay, so we should focus on executing the 7 items of devotional service very carefully. When we execute the 7 items of devotional service very carefully, then we can think of executing Atma Nivedanam and Sakyam. It's not so easy. Okay, so Malay Dwaja also had thousands of sons. Okay, please read.
No one should think that the Krishna consciousness movement is a new movement. As confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, it is very, very old movement, for it has been passing down from one Manu to another.
Just continue to read. Continue to read.
The disciples,
No, just continue to read.
among the Vaishnavas, there may be some difference of opinion due to everyone's personal identity. But despite all personal differences, the cult of Krishna consciousness must go on. We can see that under the instructions of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj began preaching the Krishna conscious movement in an organized way within the past 100 years. The disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj are all God brothers, and although there are some difference of opinion, and although we are not acting co-jointly, every one of us is spreading this Krishna consciousness movement according to his own capacity and producing many disciples to spread it all over the world. As far as we are concerned, we have already started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and many thousands of Europeans and Americans have joined this movement. Indeed, it is spreading like a wildfire. The cult of Krishna consciousness based on the 9 principles of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhya Atmanivedanam will never be stopped. It will go on without distinction of caste, creed, color, or country. No one can check it. The word bhokshate is very important in this verse. Just as king gives protection to his citizens, these devotees following the principles of devotional service will give protection to all the peoples of the world.
Okay. So Prabhupada makes some very important points here. So he says that there may be difference among devotees, but we should all work for Krishna consciousness. So that's a very important point which we should also accept and we should understand very carefully, because sometimes there may be some differences amongst us also. Like some some people may feel that, oh, this person is very conservative, or some people may feel that, oh, this person is very liberal, or whatever it is. But ultimately, we should all cooperate to push the Krishna conscious movement, because that is what is the mandate of the Lord. And Prabhupada says very clearly, no one can check it. No one can check it. No one can stop the spread of the Krishna conscious movement. So if we cooperate, then we can become glorious. If we don't cooperate, then that will be our loss. There may be differences, there may be difference of opinion. Sometimes it may be big, sometimes it may be small. But despite all difference of opinion, we should all go together. We should all move on together. We should always remember this. We should expect sometimes differences might come. Okay, please read.
The name of Agastya Muni is very significant. Agastya Muni represents the mind. The word Agastya indicates that the senses do not act independently. And the word Muni means mind. The mind is the center of all senses, and thus the senses cannot work independent of the mind. When the mind takes to the cult of bhakti, it engages in devotional service.
Yeah. So the cult of bhakti is Bhaktilata is the first daughter of Malayadwaja, as previously described. And then the son is called as Itmavaha. Itmavaha means one who is ready to do sacrifice. So that's called Idmavaha. Okay, after this, the great saintly king, Malayadwaja, divided his kingdom amongst his sons. And then in order to worship Lord Krishna with full attention, he went to a solitary place known as Kulachala.
In other words, when disciples are grown up and are able to preach, the spiritual master should retire and sit down in solitary place to write and execute Nirjan Bhajan. This means sitting silently in a solitary place and executing devotional service.
Yeah.
Following this example, the devotees of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness now render service as preachers in various parts of the world. Now they can allow the spiritual master to retire from active preaching work. In the last stage of the spiritual master's life, the devotees of the spiritual master should take preaching activities into their own hands. In this way, the spiritual master can sit down in solitary place and render Nirjan Bhajan.
Yeah. Very interesting that Prabhupada writes this. Okay, so we will take a break here because now Malayadwaja has gone to forest, and now Vaidarbi is also going to go to forest, and they are going to do austerities together. So it's a good time to take a break. We'll take break and then we'll come back. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. King Malayadwaja, he departed for this hill called Kulachala, and he left his family, his home, his kingdom. He left everything, and he went to practice austerities along with his wife. So because his wife was Vaidarbi, was very faithful to him as a faithful wife, so Vaidarbi now followed Malayadwaja to the forest, and along with him she did austerities. Also, she continued to serve her great husband. Okay, please read. Okay, I can read. The word Madrikshena is also significant in this verse. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained in his Sandarbha that the word Madira means intoxicating. If one's eyes become intoxicated upon seeing the deity, he may be called as Madrikshena. When Vaidarbi's eyes were very enchanting, just as one's eyes are Madrikshena while engaging in seeing the temple deity. Unless one is an advanced devotee, he cannot fix his eyes in the deity in the temple. Yeah. Otherwise, the deity is there, and deity is very beautifully decorated, but still we get distracted by so many things happening in the temple room, and we cannot focus our attention on the deity unless one is an advanced devotee. At the slightest disturbance, we want to see what is happening.
We can definitely see that to advance in Krishna consciousness, one must control his bodily weight. If one becomes too fat, it is to be assumed that he is not advancing spiritually.
Very practical instruction. If one becomes too fat, then he is not advancing spiritually. That's why lean brahmacharis are always good. But of course, now if you say this kind of things, they will say body shaming and that and this and things like that. But these are all facts. So we can see that whenever they go through austerities, they eventually become very skinny.
This human form of life is meant for austerity, and austerity means controlling sex, food intake, etc. In this way, time can be saved for spiritual activity, and one can purify himself both externally and internally. Thus, both body and mind can be cleansed.
Yeah. So the more we complicate our life, the less we will have time. So the lesser, that's why Prabhupada always said simple living, high thinking. They come in that order. Simple living leads to high thinking. They come in that order. You cannot have complicated living. So nowadays people live in housing complexes. So that means it's complex living and complicated thinking. So we should try to live in a simple manner. Everybody should try to simplify their lifestyle. And it may mean many things for many people. It may mean different things for different ashramas. But nonetheless, one should try to do it. Okay, so he did austerity and he did not move for 100 years by the calculation of demigods. After this time, he developed pure attraction for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and remained fixed in that position. Narada Muni is, he wants the king to appreciate that it is not very easy to get devotional service. They're going to take long time. Even if one wants to get devotional service, it's going to take long time to get devotional service. It's not like so easy. So therefore, he says Divya Varsha Satam, that for 100 years of demigods, he was doing austerity so that he could develop pure devotional service. Okay.
Not only must one come to the conclusion that Krishna is everything, but he must remain fixed in this realization. This is the highest perfection of life, and it is this perfection that King Malayadhwaja attained at the end.
Yeah, so it is relatively easy to understand that that Krishna is everything. That's relatively easy to understand. The easiest thing to understand is Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the easiest thing to understand. Means that we can know, it's there in the scripture, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karna. So that's easy to understand, that there's enough scriptural evidence to show that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can accept it. Yes, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. But little more difficult to understand is that Krishna is always correct. It's a little more difficult to understand. Sometimes we think that maybe Krishna is a little bit wrong. He's not dealing with me nicely, properly. I deserve some better treatment. Krishna has some little bit of error of judgment. So it's a little bit more difficult to understand that Krishna is always correct. But even if we try to understand that Krishna is always correct, it's even more difficult to understand that Krishna always delivers justice. That's a little bit more difficult to understand than this, that Krishna is always correct. We may accept, okay, he is God, he is correct, but I don't think it is just. God is doing whatever he was doing, that's correct, okay, it's okay. But is it justice? Is it justified that I should go through this experience? I don't think it is justified that I should go through this experience. So it's a little bit more difficult to understand that Krishna's justice is infallible. Even more difficult to understand is that the fault is mine. That's even more difficult to understand. Okay, maybe not Krishna's fault, but it is some other person's fault. It's not my fault. It's some other person's fault. Because accepting that Krishna's justice is infallible means also to accept that when things go wrong, it is my fault. That's even more difficult to understand. And the most difficult to understand is that Krishna is nice and sweet. That's the most difficult thing to understand. Progressively, one is more difficult to understand than the other. But if you understand all these things as a package, then we can remain fixed in this realization of Krishna is everything. Otherwise, we have to go through this step. Step by step, we need to understand this. That Krishna is supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna is always correct. Krishna's justice is infallible. What has gone wrong has simply gone wrong because of my own fault. And Krishna is nice and sweet person. Very difficult to understand. So when we understand these things together, then that means you attain perfection. So Malayadwaja was able to, he was able to actually see that the body and soul as separate entities. The soul is the witness of the material body. He was able to see it. He was able to see it. And he was also able to see the Supreme Lord because of his devotional service. So he attained perfect knowledge in pure state. He was directly instructed by the Supreme Lord. And then by transcendental knowledge, he left his body. He left his body. King Malayadwaja could observe the super sword is sitting by his side, and that he, as individual sword, is sitting by the side of the super soul. Since both were together, there was no need for separate interest. Thus, he ceased from such activities. The very existence of the body is due to that separate interest. That's why the body exists. The body exists because of the separate interest. And that separate interest has been explained by Kapila Dev as separate interest in mode of ignorance, separate interest in mode of passion, and separate interest in mode of goodness. And all the three has to be given up in devotional service. Even the separate interest in mode of goodness has to be given up. It's not that separate interest in mode of goodness is, we should get attached to it. Separate interest in mode of goodness is much better than separate interest in mode of passion and ignorance. And it is conducive to devotional service, but it has to be given up. Separate interest in mode of goodness means that one is interested in devotional service as a matter of duty, or one executes devotional service to become free from sinful activities, or one simply executes devotional service to remove the defect in his activities. So these are the three interest in mode of goodness, that why one does devotional service. One does devotional service in mode of goodness because he wants to purify his existence, he wants to remove his sinful activities, or he considers it that this is the duty of the soul to do devotional service, so I should do it. And these things are good. They are very conducive to progress in devotional service, but ultimately they have to be given up. Ultimately, they have to be given up, and one should learn to practice pure devotional service. So as long as a separate interest exists, then body has to exist. Once the separate interest ceases to exist, there is no more use for this material body, because this material body was simply given as an instrument to execute that separate interest. So therefore, There's no more use for this material body. So the material body is given up. Given up. So the daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband as all in all, as supreme. She gave up sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principles of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus she remained engaged in his service. Now we can contrast Puranjana to Malayadwaja. So Puranjana in his previous life, or this soul who was occupying Puranjana's body in his previous life, he simply caused the destruction of his family. His wife Puranjani and all his sons, daughters, everybody. He simply caused their destruction by being so materialistic and by being so attached to sex life. But because Malayadwaja was fixed in devotional service, naturally his wife benefited by serving him. And she remained engaged in his service. Okay. Please read.
Figuratively, King Malayadwaja is the spiritual master, and his wife, Vedarbhi, is the disciple. A woman is fortunate enough to be the wife of a pure devotee. She can serve her husband without any desire for sense gratification. If she remains engaged in the service of her exalted husband, she will automatically attain the spiritual perfections of her husband. If a disciple gets a bona fide spiritual master, simply by satisfying him, he can attain a similar opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So we are all very fortunate because we have bona fide spiritual master. We come from a glorious parampara. We are all well situated from that perspective. We are all well situated. Now we have to do our part of the obligation, which is to serve him nicely and satisfy him and give up this desire for sense gratification. We have to understand that the desire for sense gratification simply pushes us into the danger of accepting one more material body. It's a very dangerous position. And that's what this whole pastime is trying to tell us, that how dangerous it is to be in a material body. It's so dangerous. The daughter of Vidarbha wore old garments. She was lean, thin because of the vow of austerity. Since she did not arrange her hair, it became entangled and twisted in locks. Although she always remained near her husband, she was silent and unagitated as the flame of an undisturbed fire. So this is Vanaprastha life of husband and wife being together. Means that the silence simply means that they do not talk any subject matter which is materialistic. In Vanaprastha life, the husband and wife do not have any need to talk elaborate materialistic subjects. But in Grahastha life, sometimes there may be need because you're dealing with relatives, you're dealing with so many social issues and social etiquette, etc. So then there is a need to actually talk about social interactions. Okay, you have to go to this marriage, so what gift to give, what to do, what not to do. So many things may be discussed. But in Vanaprastha life means that one withdraws from such social initiatives. One does not feel obligated, and there's no obligation for a Vanaprastha to be part of social interaction. One should not think that Vanaprastha life, but still I have to go to my mama ka, chachi ka, beti ka, beta ka wedding, and after that I have to go and do something there. All these things is not required. Vanaprastha life means this all given up. Okay, we may go someplace if there's an opportunity to preach the message of the Supreme Lord. If it's a good place to preach, then we go there. And we don't feel obligated. अरे वो नहीं जाएगा तो वो गुस्सा आ जाएगा उसको, वो नहीं मानेगा. All time is over. Vanaprastha life is not meant for all those things. There's no social obligation in Vanaprastha life. So because there's no social obligation, there's also no social discussion. The discussion between husband and wife is limited to Krishna consciousness, or it is predominated by Krishna consciousness. Maybe some little bit discussion. Okay, आज दूध लेने का है, आज सब्जी खरीद करने का है, something like that. But even that is connected to devotional service. So that's what it becomes. That's the nature of a relationship between husband and wife in Krishna consciousness in Vanaprastha life. Grahastha life means there could be more talks. More talks. Okay, please read.
When one begins to burn firewood, there is smoke and agitation in the beginning. Although there are so many disturbances in the beginning, once the fire is completely set, the firewood burns steadily. Similarly, when both husband and wife follow the regulative principles of austerity, they remain silent and are not agitated by sex impulses. At such a time, both husband and wife are benefited spiritually. One can attain this stage of life by completely giving up a luxurious mode of life.
Yeah, it's very important. Vanaprastha life and luxurious life, mode of life, it doesn't go together. Necessarily, we have to simplify our lifestyle. Of course, for the sake of preaching, we may have to maintain a nice house, etc. But it should be maintained not in Grahastha style. It should be maintained Vanaprastha style. Means minimum facilities, minimum maintenance mode. Grahastha life means that maintenance is substantial because so many facilities are required according to the situation of the children. Maybe some toys are required, that is required, this is required, and some nice decoration of the house is required. So many different things are required. In Vanaprastha life, these things simply become a disturbance. This decoration, showcase, keep this, keep that, everything becomes a disturbance. Every element you add to your house is going to take away some time from Krishna consciousness. One should be very, very careful. One should live bare minimum life. Yeah.
The wife especially should remain austere, not desiring luxurious dresses and living standards. She should accept only the bare necessities of life and minimize her eating and sleeping. There should be no question of mating. Simply by engaging in the service of her exalted husband, who must be a pure devotee, the wife will never be agitated by the sex impulses. The Vanaprastha stage is exactly like this. Although the wife remains with the husband, she undergoes severe austerities and penances, so that although both husband and wife live together, there is no question of sex. In this way, both husband and wife can live together perpetually. Since the wife is weaker than the husband, this weakness is expressed in this verse with the words upa patim. Upa means near to or almost equal to. Being a man, the husband is generally more advanced than his wife. Nonetheless, the wife is expected to give up all luxurious habits. She should not even dress nicely or comb her hair. Hair combing is one of the main businesses of women. In the Vanaprastha stage, the wife should not care of her hair. Thus, her hair will become tangled in knots. Consequently, the wife will no longer be attractive to the husband, and she herself will no longer be agitated by sex impulses. In this way, both husband and wife can advance in spiritual consciousness. This advanced stage is called the Paramhamsa stage, and once it is obtained, both husband and wife can be actually liberated from bodily consciousness. If the disciple remains steady in the service of the spiritual master, he need no longer fear falling down into the clutches of Maya.
Yeah, so Prabhupada gives nice description of Vanaprastha life, that how it should be. The idea is that bodily maintenance should be minimized. That's the whole idea, that bodily maintenance should be minimized. And we should not spend too much time in trying to decorate the body or to maintain the body, etc. Whatever is needed to maintain a healthy body according to the age and life, that should be done. That's it, not more than that. So, because they were not talking to each other, so Vaidarabhi had no way of knowing whether her husband is alive or not, except that when she would touch him, touch his feet or touch his body to clean him up or something like that. So when she touched his body, then she found that his body has become very cold, and from that she could understand that he already left his body. So then she was in the forest, nobody is there, her husband is there, he was there, even though he was not talking to her, but still he was there, and she was depending on him, and she was maintaining him, she had some service to do, all these things. Now she understood that now he is gone, there's nothing to do, there's no service to do, what she's going to do? So then she became very disturbed, and then she lamented for some time, incessantly shedding tears which soaked her breast. She cried very loudly. Okay.
Figuratively, the queen is supposed to be the disciple of the king. Thus, when the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciples should cry exactly as the queen cries when the king leaves his body. However, the disciple and spiritual master are never separated because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called the association of Vani, words. No, as long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the spiritual master, physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master.
Yeah, so Prabhupada gives the hint as to what should be done and what is the nature of relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master. So when the disciple is naturally attached to the spiritual master, and when the spiritual master leaves the body, then the outpour of grief is quite natural. We saw that when Panjani Prabhu left his body, uh, we announced to the community, and then the body was taken in procession to Radha Madhav, and the body was kept in the Radha Madhav courtyard. Spontaneously, everybody in every household in Mayapur came. Children, young man, old man, young woman, old woman, everybody came. Everybody came. And the outpouring of grief was so spontaneous and so natural. Even though at that time it was still restrictions were there and crowding was not allowed and things like that. But there was no question of controlling the emotions of the devotees. All of us felt that we have left one family, we have lost one family member in the house. So spontaneously, everybody came. Everybody came. Everybody came. And there was, naturally, they were arranging themselves in line. There was like, there was no issue of crowd control or there was no chaos or anything. They all came. Naturally, they were arranging themselves in line. They were all crying. They were, and there was an arrangement to circumambulate his body and offer some flowers from distance. So they all circumambulated his body, offered some flowers at distance, and small children, they were, because I was just there, and I was just watching what's happening. So small children, they were just going and coming back. They go, they come, they did their parikrama, they went, and then they again went back to the line, and then again they came back. Again they went back to the line, again they were coming back. They couldn't stop themselves from not coming. They're coming back again and again. So that's natural that when the spiritual master leaves the body, then the disciples feel so much grief. It's natural. And we saw the same thing with when His Holiness Bhaksha Swami Maharaj left his body. But of course, there were a lot of restrictions at that time. But later, when the restrictions were lifted, so many of his disciples came. So many of his disciples came. Anyway, it's the nature of material world that separation is inevitable by time. But if we connect to the spiritual master through the Vani, then always we can feel the presence. So I was talking to one of the sannyasis who's proper disciple, and he was actually explaining to me that how Prabhupada is supervising ISKCON even today. He had a long talk with me, and he was speaking about that. He was telling me that you people should not think that Prabhupada is gone. And you can now, Prabhupada is not there. You can do whatever you want. You should not think like that. You should know that Prabhupada is still watching all of you. And he was explaining that how Prabhupada is still supervising the movement. So when we invest ourselves into the instructions of the spiritual master, then that relationship becomes very nice. So she was lamenting, "Oh, best of kings, please get up, please get up. Just see this world, which is surrounded by water, infested by rogues and so-called kings. This world is very much afraid. It is your duty to protect her." Okay, please read.
Unfortunately, when the Acharya disappears, rogues and non-devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of so-called swamis, yogis, philanthropists, welfare workers, and so on. The Acharya, the authorized representative of the Spirit Supreme Lord, establishes these principles. But when he disappears, things once again become disorganized, disordered. The perfect disciple of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. At the present moment, practically the entire world is afraid of rogues and non-devotees. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is started to save the world from irreligious principles. Everyone should cooperate with the moment in order to bring about actual peace and happiness in the world.
So when Prabhupada left, there was a fair share of disturbance in ISKCON. There were many of Prabhupada disciples. They actually went out, and there was some disturbance and some issues which happened. But later, many of them have recollected themselves, and the institution is now progressing. So now we are also in the next generation, all of us. So Prabhupada is telling us that we should cooperate, because time will come when we also have to face the situation of the unfortunate situation of not having the physical presence of our spiritual masters. So what will help us is that when we cooperate together, that will help all of us, and we can together please Srila Prabhupada. So these are some valuable instructions that Prabhupada is giving to us, that what to expect and how to overcome. Normally, sometimes these things are not so easily discussed, because no one wants to discuss a situation like this, that what will happen when the spiritual master leaves the body. It's not a very pleasant discussion. It's not some topic which you would like to meditate upon or discuss. Naturally, it is like that. It is true. None of us want our spiritual master to leave the body. That people like me, who are a little older, we are thinking that, okay, as long as spiritual master is living, we can leave the body before him. It will be very nice. So we have some desire like that. Okay, he's there, we'll leave, it will be very nice. We cannot imagine that what will happen to us if he's not there. But that's also another reality that we may have to face, that the physical presence of the spiritual master may not be there, and the responsibility of cooperating will come to our generation. We should prepare for that. We should all become very mature. We should all be ready. We should try to cooperate. And this way, we can please Prabhupada, we can please, and we should expect that due to the influence of rogues and non-devotees, there could be problem. And Prabhupada says that this happens. And then the solution also Prabhupada is giving, that solution is to cooperate. So this is something which we should not think that there'll be no problem. If it is no problem, it will be good. But Prabhupada is warning us that there will be disturbance, there will be problem, and the solution is to cooperate. So very important instructions, especially for our generation. We have a great responsibility. We have great acharyas. We have a great movement. And we also have to face the great test of how we will take it forward. And if we pass that test, then it will be our glory that, okay, we passed the test. Our acharyas will be very pleased with us. Okay, these guys passed the test. They'll be very pleased with us. So she prepared to enter the blazing fire because she thought that there is no more reason to live in this material world. So the fire of separation made the actual fire look very insignificant. So I thought, okay, just leave this world. So she was preparing like that. Okay.
Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. It is the duty of the disciple to take charge of the mission of spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life, abandon all personal considerations.
Yeah, so because since the body belongs to the spiritual master, then it's our duty to continue to use this body in spiritual master service, even in the absence of the spiritual master. The most easiest thing would be to leave the body when he is not there. But there's also duty. So that's what Prabhupada points out. The duty of the disciple would be to continue to execute the mission of the spiritual master. So at that time, my dear king, one Brahmana, who was old friend of King Puranjana, came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. So now enters the hero. The hero of this allegory enters in the end. He came in the beginning of the story and then there was no talk about him. And now in the climax, he makes the re-entry. So the hero re-enters in the climax. Okay, please read.
When one becomes serious to follow the mission of spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. That one should serve the word of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So Prabhupada says some very significant thing. This means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. This is something which we should think about. That this is how we will see Krishna. This is the way we can see Krishna. Okay. Please read further.
In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of spiritual master, immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vani or Vapu, this is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan while at same time engaging in a sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the word of the spiritual master, he will see Supreme Lord without difficulty.
Yeah. So Prabhupada is warning us that we should not become simply sahajas. That Prabhupada is saying that we should not be eager to see the Lord in the bush of Vrindavan at the same time engaging in sense gratification.
Mukti Swayam Muktanjali Sevate Sman. Liberation is no problem for pure devotee. All material convenience are simply awaiting him at all stages of life. When a person's relative dies, renunciation is automatically visible. Consultation with the super soul seated within everyone's heart is possible only when one is completely free from the contamination of material attachment. One who is sincere and pure gets an opportunity to consult with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature sitting within everyone's heart.
So as long as that purity is not there, then one should simply consult the spiritual master. Okay, please read.
A sincere devotee who follows the instruction of the spiritual master certainly gets direct instruction from his heart, from the super soul. Thus, a sincere devotee is always helped directly or indirectly by the spiritual master or the super soul.
Yeah. So The Brahmana is saying, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had been a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted the position of the enjoyer of this material world. This is the super soul speaking. Yeah, please read.
This is an explanation of how the living entity falls down into this material world. When the living entities desire to enjoy themselves, they develop a consciousness about duality and come to hate the service of the Lord. By misusing his independence, the living entity falls down from the service of the Lord and takes a position in this material world as an enjoyer. That is to say, the living entity takes his position within material body. Wanting to take a very exalted position, the living entity instead becomes entangled in a repetition of birth and death. The Supreme Lord is supreme friend of everyone. However, no one can take advantage of the Supreme Friend's instructions while making his own plans to become happy, entangling himself in the modes of material nature.
So Prabhupada quotes Bhaktaram Agyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surdam Sarvabhutanam Nyatva Mam Shanti Brachati. Because in this material world, this is what is happening. Those who are in mode of passion and ignorance, they are simply trying to become enjoyers and controllers. So those who are in passion and goodness, they are simply trying to become well-wishers. They are simply trying to become well-wishers. But we can neither be enjoyer, nor be controller, nor be well-wisher. Supreme Lord is the enjoyer, he is the controller, he is the well-wisher. That has to be understood. Then only we can become peaceful. So the super soul is nicely instructing Vaidarbhi or the soul. My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasa lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home. So that is what the Lord is telling the Jiva, that we both are friends. We are living together for thousands of years. We don't see that how Krishna has accompanied us. We don't even recognize what is the nature of Krishna's love. Even though Krishna tries to repeatedly educate us about how much he likes us, but we never like to see it. So even to, like today morning, we're discussing in the class that even to forget Krishna, we need Krishna. We don't even have the ability to forget him independently. Everything is facilitated by him. Forgetting him, remembering him, everything is facilitated by him. So if we try to understand that how Krishna deals with us, then we can try to understand 10th canto. That's why Prabhupada says that without understanding 9 cantos, we cannot understand 10th canto. So the Acharyas have said that the cause can be found in the effect. If the effect is material world, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead's love can be found within this material world. The nature of his love can be experienced by carefully observing the activities of this material world. We can very easily experience the nature of Krishna's love by actually seeing the material world. And that's why the 9 cantos are there. The 9 cantos list the happenings of the material world. In a way, we can actually appreciate what it means, what means love, and how much Krishna loves us. That's the one singular topic which is explained in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavata. There's only one topic. There's no other topic. And the topic is Krishna wants to tell us, I love you even if you don't love me. That's the only topic. You may leave me, I don't leave you. That's the kind of lover Krishna is. So Krishna is a kind of lover who loves us even if we don't love him, who doesn't leave us even if we leave him. To understand this, we have to study Bhagavad Gita and 9 cantos of Bhagavata. And when we understand this, we also understand, because in this material world, also someone may say like this, I love you even if you don't love me. Someone may say like this, I will be always with you even if you leave me. Someone may say the same dialogue in this material world. But for Krishna to say this dialogue is very, very different from anybody else to say this dialogue. Because Krishna is Atmaram, he is Aptakam. He is fully self-sufficient and he is able to fulfill all his desires by himself. Every other person in this material world is neither Atmaram nor he is Aptakam. So whenever he is expressing his love, it is simply because of his own deficiency he is expressing his love. That is the nature of expression of love in the material world. The expression of love is simply to cover one's own deficiency. But Krishna has no deficiency. Consequently, there is no need for him to love. But still, Krishna loves. And loves with that kind of intensity that is very difficult to understand. So therefore, one should search through the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita and the 9 cantos of Bhagavatam, the nature of that love. If one is able to search through that nature of that love, and if one is able to understand even little bit, what does it mean to be in love, then one can hope to understand little bit of 10th canto. The spiritual master is the one who actually understands that language of love. The acharyas are the ones who actually understand that language of love. Therefore, without the guidance of the spiritual master or without the guidance of the acharyas, it is impossible to understand the language of love of Krishna. It's impossible to understand. Because they are the practical manifestation of that loving feature of Krishna. They're practically manifested and they show us that this is what love means. This is how it means to love someone. Because what a disciple can give to spiritual master? Can a disciple give something to spiritual master? Can he give something? He can tell, okay, my dear spiritual master, this is something which you don't have. I want to give you. Can he give something like that? He cannot give anything to spiritual master. But how much a disciple gets from the spiritual master? How much he gets? He gets unlimited amount from the spiritual master. He owes his existence to the spiritual master because the spiritual master is the one who actually told him, you're not his body, you're a spirit soul. You're a servant of Krishna. So his very existence he owes to the spiritual master. But at the same time, there's nothing he can do to repay the spiritual master. Whatever he does, it will remain insignificant. But still the spiritual master loves the disciple because that is the nature of Krishna's love. And that's what here the super soul is telling that soul who is thinking that he is Vaidarbhi, he is wife of Malayadwaja, now there's no reason for him to live, all these things. My dear friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic, not seeing me. You have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman. That some woman is Maya. She is Prakriti. So she is called as some woman. Okay, please read.
This material tendency is mentioned in this verse as Gramyamati, sense gratification. The word Mahim means within this material world. All living entities within this material world are sensually inclined. Consequently, they become entangled in different types of bodies and suffer the pangs of material existence.
In that city, the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who lords over the house. My dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment. The protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients, fire, water, and earth. 6 families are the aggregate total of mind and 5 senses. The five stores are the five working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined forces of five elements which are eternal. Behind all this is the activity of the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge. Okay, please read.
The bodily conception of life is prominent because of ignorance. Intelligence is described in the feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in all activities, she is described in this verse as Adhishaha, the controller. The living entity lives by means of fire, water, and food grains. It is through the combination of these three that the body is maintained. Consequently, the body is called Prakriti, material creation. All the elements gradually combine to form flesh, bone, blood, and so on. All these appear as various apartments. It is said in the Vedas that the digested food are ultimately divided into three. The solid portion becomes stool, and the semi-liquid portion turns into flesh. The liquid portion turns yellow and is again divided into three. One of these liquid portions is called urine. Similarly, the fiery portion is divided into three, and one is called bone.
So it's all Ayurveda. So ultimately, this is what is a material body is. My dear friend, when you enter such a body, along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. And due to your material conception, you are placed in miserable condition. Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor this man Malayadwaja is your well-wishing husband, nor were you the actual husband of Puranjani. You are simply captivated in this body of 9 gates. So this is the fact. We should understand this fact. Please read.
In the material world, many living entities come into contact with one another, and increasing their attachment to a particular type of body, become related as father, husband, mother, wife, etc. As water passes down a river, many straws and grasses are carried from the shore. These straws and grasses come together in the river's current. But when the waves toss this way and that, they are separated and carried somewhere else. Similarly, innumerable living entities within this material world are being carried by the waves of material nature. Sometimes the wave bring them together and they form friendships and relate to one another on a bodily basis of family, community, or nationality. Eventually, they are thrown out of association by the waves of material nature. One's so-called husband, relative, son, father, or whatever cannot actually be a well-wisher. The only actual well-wisher is Krishna himself.
Yeah, he's Krishna himself. One time, one Prabhupada disciple came and told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I cannot trust anyone. I can only trust you. Prabhupada said, don't even trust me, trust Krishna. This is the bona fide spiritual master. That he shows Krishna as the well-wisher. Sometimes you think yourself as a man, sometimes a chaste woman, sometimes a neutral energy. This is all because of the body which is created by the illusory energy. This illusory energy is my potency. And actually both of us, you and I, are pure spiritual identities. Now just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual position. So very nicely, the super soul, who is the friend, he is explaining this to the soul, who is now thinking that she has become a woman and she is in a very unfortunate position. My dear friend, I, the super soul, you, the individual soul, are not different in quality. We both are spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are not actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror, to be one with himself, not different. Whereas others actually see two different bodies in our material condition in which the living being is affected, yet not affected. There's a difference between God and the living entity. Okay, please read.
When the sun is reflected in a pot of water, the sun knows that there is no difference between himself and the reflected sun in the water. Those in ignorance, however, perceive that there are many small suns reflected in each and every pot. As far as the brilliance is concerned, there is brilliance both in the original sun and in the reflections, but the reflections are small, whereas the original sun is very large. Vaishnava philosophers conclude that the living entity is simply a small sample of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one in quality, the living entity is prone to forget his spiritual identity, whereas the Supreme Personality never forgets. This is the difference between Lipta and Alipta. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally alipta, uncontaminated by the external energy. The conditioned soul, however, being in contact with material nature, forgets his real identity. Therefore, when he sees himself in the conditioned state, he identifies himself with the body.
In this way, both swans live together in the heart. But when one swan is instructed by the other, he is situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. Please read.
Hamso hamsena pratibodhitaha. One swan, however, is superior and is the instructor of the other. When the inferior swan is separated from the other swan, he is attracted to material enjoyment. This is the cause of his fall down. The word swastaha means situated in one's original position is very significant in this verse. When one gives up his unwanted attitude of superiority, he becomes situated in his original position. These verses are spoken by Srila Narad Muni, and his purpose in speaking them is to revive our consciousness. Although the living entity and the super soul are one in quality, the individual soul has to pursue the instruction of the super soul. That is the state of liberation.
My dear King Prachina Barhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Puranjana to you. It is actually an instruction for self-realization. So, with this, we come to the end of this chapter. Thus, end the Bhaktivedanta purport of 4th canto, 28th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Puranjana becomes a woman in next life. Harihi Om Tat Sat. So, the next chapter actually concludes this pastime. So, briefly, in the next chapter, the king is not able to understand the allegory. He says that it's too complicated for me. I'm not so intelligent to understand this allegory. So can you please deconstruct this allegory for me? He tells. And then Narada Muni actually deconstructs the entire allegory for him. And he explains every aspect of the allegory to him, that this is what each and every aspect stands for. Still, the king is not convinced that he should leave the kingdom because he was so attached to the kingdom. He's thinking, okay, let my sons come back, then I will give the kingdom to them and I will leave the kingdom. Then Narada Muni tells him one more allegory of the two deers trying to enjoy. And there's a hunter and then there's a tiger. So he tells him one more allegory. And after telling that allegory and explaining that allegory, now the king becomes, he becomes aware that now I have to leave immediately. Thus, he left the kingdom immediately, and then he performed austerities to become perfect. So that's explained in the next chapter, which is a very long chapter. So it has about, I think, 80 plus shlokas. So that brings us to the end of this pastime. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss this pastime with all of you. It's very, I don't know about all of you, but it was very nice experience for me. I always wanted to discuss this pastime, but due to my different schedules, it was difficult to put my time and get into it. But anyway, whole Krishna consciousness is so nice that whatever desire we have, always it gets fulfilled. So somehow I got the opportunity to go through this pastime with all of you, the most qualified people to be with and discuss this pastime. So I'm very happy that I came here and I got this opportunity. Thank you very much. And let me also once again offer my humble apologies, because sometimes we discussed various topics, and because of the nature of this pastime and also the nature of the topics, sometimes the discussions were like subject matters were a little heavy. So some of you felt that my presentation was not very appropriate. So I please I seek forgiveness from all of you. Everything was done in good spirit, and I request all of you to take it in good spirit also. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Kanitra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande. Can't not replace Salman Khan, but know what to do with this guy. I have to live with him. She doesn't think like that. She just gets captivated to one man and she remains chaste to that man. That's what is supposed to be Vedic system.
Another question for in the Vedic
But of course, we should follow the law of the land. I am not saying that devotees should do child marriage. I'm not saying all that. But I'm saying that there is some validity to that system. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Another question for a man, Vedic system is allowing that he can either remain brahmachari or he can marry multiple women. But for girl, it is compulsorily allowed to marry only one man.
Correct, yeah. So you think Vedic system is unfair?
No, I'm not saying, I'm just asking the clarification.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
correct.
I'm just wanting to know the reason behind this system.
Because woman is considered exalted in Vedic system. Because she is the origin of progeny, therefore she is considered exalted. Her chastity, it actually ensures that the whole society is peaceful. If you want to know more, you can read first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna actually explains how Varna Shankara happens. So that explains why woman is given that kind of one side you can say position and other side it can say restriction. See, any exalted position comes with a restriction. Like, Prime Minister Modi is having exalted position, but how much his life is restricted? Always some 100 policemen around him, all carrying big gun. He cannot go and meet anybody like he wants. There has to be so much restriction. People cannot meet him. He cannot meet people. Position and restriction goes together. Okay. So because woman is given exalted position, therefore there is also restrictions to her, and that is to her glory. But modern world doesn't understand these things. They only look at the restriction and they think that this is some kind of slavery. No, it's because of the position there is restriction. And we can see in experience that position and restriction always goes together.
Thank you.
Yes, Bhakti Vaibhav Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, regarding this, like we see that the early marriage is allowed for a girl. On one side, it is said. On the other side, it is said that we have a modern day problem of teenage pregnancy. So, like in early marriage, but then they are not allowed to have child in young age. Is there something like that? Because
teenage pregnancy problem I raised because that all those teenage pregnancies are illicit pregnancies.
Yeah, that is illicit, but that is illicit. That is clear. How they like the modern world, how they see it as a from Shastric point, it is clear it is illicit, right? But they consider it as a problem, teenage pregnancy, from modern point of view. I'm asking. So how they see it as a problem? Because anyways, their life is all illicit. So because that I'm not able to. Is it having some health issues for a child, like a girl having early pregnancy?
I don't know. Are you saying that early pregnancy should not be there? Is this your question?
Yeah, something like that. Probably, like, is it because of that health reason they are considering it as a problem? The modern people, not
Oh,
the
modern
Vedic.
people, why they don't want child marriage? Is this
No,
your
no.
question?
My why how this teenage pregnancy is a problem for modern people? Because
How teenage pregnancy is modern for modern people is because these teenagers who become pregnant, they are irresponsible, number one. And most of the time they go for abortion. And when they go for abortion, they pose risk for themselves. And they are most of the time unclean, malnourished. So even if they give birth to a child, they are not going to cover, they are not going to take care of the child. The child is going to become the burden of the government. Government has to take care of the child. There is no social system which actually goes along with the teenage pregnancy. So they have destroyed the social system and they have created the problem of teenage pregnancy, and then they are saying it is a problem. You understand? There should be a social system which goes along with everything. They have destroyed the social system, and they don't have proper way to handle. Marriage is the institution to handle a baby. If there is no marriage, then the baby is Varna Shankara. And that Varna Shankara baby will, what that baby will do is like is completely messed up in consciousness. That's what we are seeing. They only see the messed up consciousness, and they only see the problem to the government's revenue. They don't address the bigger problem.
Like actually, I didn't understand this point that how it becomes a problem for the government to maintain that child, but it is their responsibility. They had illicit connection
Yeah,
and teenage. It's
it's
their
their
problem. How
responsibility,
it
no?
comes
It's
to
their
the government?
responsibility, no?
Yeah. So how it comes on government, like that I'm not able to understand. Like it is their life, and they chose to do it in that way.
No,
And
no,
that's,
no. They just abandoned the child. Most of the teenage pregnancies, either the child is killed or abandoned. So when the child is abandoned, then it becomes government problem, no?
okay. And okay. Yes.
Prabhu, do we have any example of child marriage in scripture?
Most of the marriages in scripture is child marriage only.
We know about example of Sita's marriage, Draupadi's marriage. So they were child that time.
All of them see, in Vedic system, generally women get married before puberty. That's the normal system in Vedic system, that they get married before puberty. So it's not made into it's not like now we are talking about child marriage, okay? But in Vedic system, marriage itself is child marriage only. If there's a marriage, it's only child marriage. It's not like there's a separate adult marriage and child marriage. Now that is seen as two different things. So that is why we are talking about the child marriage and adult marriage. Vedic system, marriage itself means child marriage only.
What was their age according to your understanding?
I don't know what is the age at which Lord Ram got married to Sita, but when Lord Ram was 14 and Sita was younger to her. So, Sita was 9 years. Oh, Sita was 9 years. So there are experts in Ramayana, they're saying. I don't know, frankly, but Sita 9 years, Rama is 14 years. So I think it looks like a child marriage only.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Rachman Bhagavatam ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare.